Flacco is going to start their opener. The 40-year-old Flacco was widely expected to win this job over Kenny Pickett and rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, who have all dealt with injuries in camp. Coach Kevin Stefanski addressed this news today.
Yeah, he earned it, and I understand with the injuries how that may look. That's really not the case here. Joe performed really well. What he's able to bring to the football team, he's earned that role. I do think the guys believe in Joe, but I want to give credit to that entire group. I think those guys are working very, very hard. We have a standard for that position, regardless of who's in there. Practice, games, how we operate, what we believe in. We have a very, very high standard.
Our Browns reporter Daniel Oyefusi joins us from Browns camp in Berea, Ohio. And Daniel, what does naming a QB1 and it being Joe Flacco do for this QB room at large?
Well, Phil, it means that there's clarity at the top of the depth chart for the Browns, but everything behind Flacco is still very much up in the air. Today, Coach Kevin Stefanski declined to name a backup to Flacco, and when I asked him if maybe there's an ongoing competition for that spot, he said that all these roles are not given out. They're earned. Now, keep in mind, last month, GM Andrew Berry said that it's very possible that they keep all 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. And as we head into the final week of the preseason, it's important to note that Kenny Pickett returned to 11-on-11 drills today for the first time since injuring his hamstring. And Stefanski said he's very much still excited about Pickett.
And Daniel, this is a team that when Flacco was starter 2 years ago, they went 4-1 in those games, ultimately going 11-6, and 11 wins ties the franchise high going all the way back to 1986. Daniel, thank you so much. So Sam Acho, you sign one QB in free agency, you trade for another, you draft 2 more, and then ultimately go with the elder statesman of the bunch by, 10 years plus. Does the Flacco decision make sense to you?
It does, but I don't think this competition is over. I understand that Joe Flacco can run the offense very well, but here's the issue. If this Cleveland Brown team gets down in a game and it's obvious past situations, you may see what happened in the 2023 playoffs when they played the Texans, when all of a sudden they're down by a couple scores, Joe Flacco takes a couple sacks, and now he's trying to get the ball out quickly. What's going to happen is if pass rushers, like when they played the Baltimore Ravens or other teams earlier in the season, get a chance to get to the quarterback and they can't move the ball as effectively because they're down in a game, Cleveland may look to go to a more mobile quarterback, and that could be both Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel. So I understand that Joe Flacco has been named the starter, but I believe that this competition is far from over.
Well, it's not any surprise about who's starting in Cleveland. I think the real quarterback drama in Cleveland is who's going to be the backup quarterback in Cleveland. Everybody always expected that Joe Flacco would be the starting quarterback from the moment he signed with the Cleveland Browns back in April. And we can just prove that by pointing to the fact that Joe Flacco didn't play it down in a preseason game this summer, and he still was named the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. And yet, the real interesting part of this is, what did the Browns do at the backup quarterback position? Do they go with Dillon Gabriel? Do they go with Shedeur Sanders? On their current depth chart, for whatever that's worth, and maybe they haven't changed it at all this summer, they have Joe Flacco listed as the starter. They have Kenny Pickett listed as second string. They have Dillon Gabriel listed as third string. And they have Shedeur Sanders listed as fourth string. Let's see what happens in the final preseason game, where I'm sure they'll give an opportunity to Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders to get a better idea of who might be higher on the depth chart come the start of the regular season.
Mike, you heard Adam's analysis. There's intrigue and potential promise elsewhere in this depth chart. Kevin Stefanski won't name QB2. I'm going to ask you to name QB2. How should the Browns approach this?
I would give each player a half. Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, let them go compete this weekend. They both look good, but they both were hurt. So it's been an odd situation because Joe Flacco, as Adam alluded to, didn't play it down, but he was the only one of the 4 quarterbacks that wasn't hurt. I was actually really encouraged by both Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders when they were out there against the Panthers and the Eagles. Look, Dillon Gabriel had the 2 turnovers in fairness here, but I thought they were both encouraging. Let them go and compete, and let them compete every week. That's how you're going to get the best out of both of them.
Yeah, Sanders was cleaner, but Gabriel had more yards per attempt, 7.9 for him as opposed to 6 even for Sanders. But these are the situations you create when you draft 2. With breaking news out of Indy, Adam Schefter, what more can you tell us?
Phil, the Indianapolis Colts have made a decision about their starting quarterback, and they are going with Daniel Jones, the man they signed to a contract during the offseason that they paid $14 million to during the offseason. You heard over the weekend the Colts head coach Shane Steichen say he was looking for somebody who could command the huddle, take charge, get guys in the right position, and he clearly felt Daniel Jones was the quarterback to choose over Anthony Richardson, so much so that Shane Steichen even said that this is not a short-term trial basis type of decision. He is planning for Daniel Jones to be the Colts QB1 for the rest of the season. Now, we'll see if Jones can play well enough to hold him to that, but that is the plan, that Daniel Jones will be the Colts starting quarterback in all of 2025.
And Chris Ballard leaned into the word competition at the Combine. Looking at the preseason in a vacuum, the Colts were a better offense with Daniel Jones on the field. Indy averaged 6.3 yards per play and 44 snaps with Jones under center. Compare that to 4.7 and 26 snaps with Anthony Richardson, though his turn was abbreviated by a dislocated finger. Head coach Shane Steichen spoke today about the choice.
You guys heard me talk about the consistency, and that's really what I was looking for. And really the operation at the line of scrimmage, the checks, the protection. Daniel did a great job doing that, and I think AR has made strides in that area. But I do feel that, he still needs to continue to develop. He knows that he still needs to develop and learn in those areas, and he knows that he's one play away.
You just got to respect the decision. I feel like he's a better fit for the team, better fit for the outcome of us winning. So you just got to respect it and just keep working. It doesn't undermine any other work I've been putting in. Doesn't say that I haven't improved. I'm proud of the improvement I've made. Shane is also proud of that. So you just got to keep stacking on that and just keep getting better.
Obviously, a big piece of why I came here and to play, to be on the field, and to be with this group. I think it's a strong group of players, as I said, and a strong group of coaches, the system. I think there's a lot of things here to be excited about. So, I'm certainly happy I made the decision I did.
We've already heard from Adam Schefter, Sam Acho, Mike Tannenbaum, with me, Phil Murphy, here for the hour. Mike, the Indiana Jones marketing campaign is officially a go. You're a former GM. What's your reaction to the Colts going in this direction for week one?
I think they made a mistake. When they drafted Anthony Richardson, Phil, they knew that he only had 13 career starts. He's only had 15 so far in the pro level. And by comparison, you look at some recent quarterbacks like Bryce Young, 27 starts, Caleb Williams, 33, Cam Ward, 57 this year. He is a work in progress. So to me, they have some nice weapons now when you think about Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, drafter Tyler Warren. But to me, if you're going to draft Anthony Richardson with all that ability, all that upside, it's not going to happen overnight. And to me, Daniel Jones, we know what he is. He's a competent quarterback, but he has struggled with turnovers. He's struggled with sacks. He's only completed one season in his career. I would go with the younger player who has much more upside.
Yeah, the difference, though, is that this was a competition, and Anthony Richardson did not win the competition. I'd argue that Daniel Jones didn't win it either. He just didn't lose it. I don't think this was a far and away win by Daniel Jones, but the coaches are saying, who do we trust more? And going back to even just that broken pinky play, right, where Anthony Richardson wasn't able to adjust to the blitz and take that sack, it was not a lot of trust that is being put forward for Anthony Richardson. Both Richardson and Jones looked inconsistent for a majority of the preseason. There were some flashes where they looked good, but neither looked consistent. Neither inspired too much confidence. Now, I will say this. The lesser turnovers when it comes to Anthony Richardson, when it comes to Daniel Jones, so I think that's why he's able to earn this spot.
Mike, you touched on it a minute ago. It's not terribly common for a team to move on not just from a first-round pick, a top-5 pick so quickly. Anthony Richardson's 23. He's younger than Bo Nix, Michael Penix, down the line, Caleb Williams. Do you think his time in Indy is over?
Not necessarily. Again, Daniel Jones has had trouble with durability himself, as Coach Steichen alluded to. So he has to be mentally ready to go because he is one snap away. And look, when somebody is that young and that experienced and so talented, I would be extremely reticent if I was Indianapolis to give up on him. We could look at Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, a recent sort of examples of quarterbacks that have been at 4 different teams until they sort of hit their potential.
And Mike, you bring up Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, 3 quarterbacks who once were high picks who went on to become the type of quarterbacks that many expected. I think that's what the Colts are expecting right now with Daniel Jones, and it's certainly possible that Anthony Richardson will have that opportunity in the future. And the question is whether it'll be in Indianapolis, because after this season, the Colts are going to have to make a decision about whether or not to pick up the 5th-year option in Anthony Richardson's 2027 season, which would be the 5th year of his rookie contract. As it stands, if he doesn't play this year, can't imagine that they would be picking up the 5th-year option on a quarterback who hasn't played much. But if the circumstances change, Richardson could find a way to play himself into that. And if not, then he would have the opportunity to go somewhere else to try to become the latest version of those quarterbacks that you mentioned, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, and Sam Darnold.